For more on this, I'd like to welcome in an economist for the American Institute for Economic Research, David Hebert. David, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. First of all, is this what you expected? Is this the number you expected? And do you think that Powell finally succumbed to the immense pressure from President Trump?
Yeah, so this is exactly the number that I think almost everyone was expecting. You know, a 0.25% interest rate deduction is going to give them sort of the lateral to be that test case to see if we can bring it down even further without spurring inflation. Now, as for whether this was at the behest of Donald Trump, I don't think so. There are a lot of good indicators right now that indicate that it could be a good time to start lowering interest rates at least a little bit. And so this modest rate cut is actually a very wise move by Jerome Powell and the FOMC.
All right, so we know, you're calling it a wise move. This is certainly a big deal for Americans, for the economy, the first cut in 9 months. Where do you think we'll see the biggest impact on spending?
So consumer spending actually did increase in August. So it's not clear to me that we're going to see a big increase in consumer spending right now, at least above and beyond what we would have seen had the Fed remained steady. What will be interesting to see is how does this affect mortgage rates, which are extraordinarily high right now, and hopefully they can come down. Part of that, though, is due to a lack of housing construction. So we're really going to have to wait and see on all these different areas what the effects are going to be of other policies coming out of Washington.
All right, so we know that mortgage rates have been tough, so to speak, for so many Americans, whether they're looking to buy, whether they are looking to sell. They have come down recently, but what do you think this means overall for the housing market?
When the Federal Reserve cuts rates, it does tend to boost the housing market, which is generally speaking a good thing. But at the end of the day, we really need to get more houses built so those mortgage rates can come down even further and keep more money in the American people's pockets.
So we know the job market appears to be weakening. We've seen the slowdown in hiring. We've seen the jobs numbers. We've seen the jobs numbers revisions. How do you think this is going to affect hiring?
Right. So the jobs numbers are pretty anemic, especially after these revisions. But what's important to note is that the overall unemployment rate has remained relatively steady. Unfortunately for American college graduates, though, the unemployment rate is extraordinarily high. So cutting this rate could really help those college graduates secure their first jobs post-graduation and launch their careers as they get that first step on that economic ladder.
All right. So we know there are 2 more Fed meetings this year. Do you think the Fed will continue to lower rates?
Listen, predicting the future is always difficult, but this test case right now, really pushing it and seeing if inflation does tick up over the next few months is really going to form the basis for everything that the Federal Reserve does at those next 2 meetings.
All right, and we know, last question for you, we know that an appeals court did rule earlier this week that Lisa Cook can, in fact, remain a governor. We know that she, was one of the governors that voted, or she was one of the members of this board that voted. We know that a Trump appointee accused Cook of mortgage fraud. She denies any wrongdoing. She's not been charged with a crime. What stands out to you here? Do you believe any of that has had an impact on what we're seeing right now?
I don't know if it's so much the Cook drama surrounding her appointment as much as it is the Myron appointment just this week. With Steve Myron on the board now, it's pretty clear that he is going to report back to the president, what was said and who said what. It'll be really interesting to see the minutes that come out from this meeting when they're released and see if there's a general change in the tone or tenor of the discussion with the board members knowing that all of this is going to go back to the president.
A lot to keep an eye on. David Hebert, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.